Lesson 6, safety video. Good afternoon, folks. I think you all know me. My name is Peter Zupko. I'm one of the carpenter instructors here at the Philadelphia JAC. We're going to continue our safety discussion from last week. Specifically, we're going to talk about safety harnesses today. How to inspect, how to properly wear them. When we talk about safety harnesses, there's a difference between fall prevention and fall protection. A safety harness, its anchorage point and its connectors, they're the three parts, we'll go over them in a minute. They are a fall protection system. You're being protected from further falling. You've already fallen. You're probably taking some sort of damage. Hopefully you're not dying, and you're definitely not hitting the lower deck if it's all done right. Fall prevention would be stanchions in front of a leading edge, guardrails around on a high reach. They engineer the problem away. They engineer the fall. The fall doesn't exist at that point unless you do something really stupid. So we're talking about fall protection. Three parts to a fall protection system. Anchorage point. One anchorage point per person has to withstand 5,000 pounds of pressure. Connectors. Connectors are your D-rings, your latch hooks, and of course your some type of lanyard. Oh, where's my lanyard? Here's my lanyard, right here. Some type of lanyard, and or a retractable, where it locks up right away when you fall. There's a typical lanyard. It's 6 feet. Can be no longer than 6 feet by OSHA regulation. But this one has a 3.5 foot tearaway. The tearaway is a deceleration device. Once it's engaged, it takes a certain amount of force, it helps slow you down. This is a lanyard that's been deployed. So this was 6 foot at one point, it's been deployed, it took weight, and the deceleration, you see as the rib stitch comes apart, it slows you down. Once you fall, if you fall about 12 feet, you're moving, let's see here, I have dynamics of a fall, I'll pass this out to all of you. If you fall about 12 feet, you're gonna do it very, very quickly, about half a minute. 1,800 pounds of pressure is what you're gonna withstand. So you're gonna take some sort of hit somewhere. Then that brings us to our harness. Now, this has got some nice padding in here, so if I do fall, it's gonna help. Plus, you're wearing it all day. You might have your tools hooked to them. Some have a belt where you can attach your tools, some don't. But you're wearing it all day long, it is kind of on you, so the nicer they are, the more padding, the more comfortable they're going to be. You might as well be comfortable when you're working. So what I would do with a harness, the first thing, pick it up by the D-ring. It looks confusing if you've never done it. Pick it up by the D-ring, kind of shake it out. It's got 2 shoulder straps, it's got straps across the back, and it's got some dangling leg straps. There are different types of variety of harnesses. Some have more, some have less, the belt for tools and whatnot. But in the end, they're all basically the same. So pick it up by the D-ring. Make sure the D-ring is attached to the webbing, not just to the plastic connector. Sometimes they've come from the factory like that. We got to fix them. It has to be attached to the webbing. That's what's going to save your life. Now, upon getting one, it is the employer's duty to teach you how to wear a harness. We're going to do it here so you're covered, but at the same time, they should teach you how to wear it, how to inspect it, what to look for, and how to properly adjust it. About 6 to 8 inches on the webbing, you just want to roll it back and forth. It kind of exposes the fibers of the webbing strap and allows you to see any defects. You're looking for cuts, burns, ultraviolet rays can deteriorate the webbing. Cuts, burns, scratches. You're going to look at all your D-rings, all your metal clasps, and make sure that they're not bent, they don't have any nicks and any sharp edges. You're going to make sure that if you have buckles, the buckle rotation parts, they rotate properly, free and clear, they're not dirty and greased up, that everything engages. You're going to make sure that your grommets are seated properly in the webbing and they're not bent, twisted, or have abrasive parts. There's some stitching here, and the stitching is meant to hold the straps together. You're going to make sure that they're all engaged properly. If any of the stitching is coming apart or this is being ripped off, you don't want to use that harness because you don't know how much degradation it's been under, and it may not withstand the weight of your fall. Again, a man with his tools, about 250 pounds, you fall 12 feet, it's 1,800 pounds of pressure. It's a lot of pressure. Okay, grab it by the D-ring. You're going to all be given a harness when we get done with this lesson. You're going to be given a harness. You're going to identify all the parts. You're going to inspect it. You're going to put it on or don it. And then you're going to adjust it properly to your size and shape body. That's our lesson for the day. As far as grading goes, folks, I'm going to have to grade you very strictly on this because it's your life that's in your own hands. If you don't find a rip or a tear in it and you do fall, you could die or you could get hurt. So we're going to be here all day or as long as it takes to make sure that you get everything right. So, put the shoulder straps on. come across the chest strap. Chest strap should come right across the center of the chest, right across the nipples. Then you want to adjust it. It's got a little slide, and this has already been adjusted for me. Make sure that it's properly adjusted. This D-ring here is for extra hooks. We'll get into those later, but so I can hook something to that. This does not have a belt for my tools, so I'm going to move right on to the leg straps. There's an inside and an outside. You want to make sure that it's not twisted. I'm going to bring this up nice and flat. You can see the difference of the grommet. The outside's nice and smooth. The inside has a little bevel where it's put together. Bring it through the buckle, right through the leg. One left. And then I have extra little holders here to take the extra strap up. You can double this back over. What you cannot do is you cannot put tape. This harness here had tape on it. When the person adjusted it to where they wanted it, they had so the extra straps weren't flying around in the wind. They put tape on it. But tape can hide defects, and tape and the adhesive in the tape can deteriorate the webbing. So you don't want to do that. You don't really want to write on them either. You're not allowed to write on them. Magic marker, believe it or not, can do bad things to your webbing. So you're really not supposed to write on it. So we're going to strap them. As far as tightness along the legs go, what you want to do is people kind of wear them too low. They wear them too loose, and God forbid you fall. It's going to engage. Especially you men out there, you're going to take some damage. These straps should come across your leg tight enough that you can get your hand in there flat. And then when I make a fist and I try to pull it out, I can't. That's tight enough. If you do fall, you're hanging. A couple things you want to know. One, you should always be working with a partner. Two, your employee should ask your employer, if I fall, how are you getting me down? Do you have a plan? Do you have a high reach? Do you have a rope? Do you have some way of getting me down? Because we'll talk about fall suspension trauma next class. But suspension trauma, real quick, is when you're hanging. Once you've engaged in a fall and you're hanging, your femoral artery runs right down the inside of your leg. You have two of them. Second largest artery in your body, next to the carotid artery in your neck. What's going to happen is your legs take up half of your body mass. Half of your blood's in those legs. When you pinch those arteries off, just like if I pinch the artery off of my arm, you see how quickly the blood pools in the lower extremity. Well, that blood cannot get back to the heart. So the heart starts to pump a lot faster, and if it's pumping, but it's not pumping any blood, so it continues to pick up pace, and eventually you're going to pass out. You have about 10 minutes while you're hanging before you sustain at least passing out and possibly death. And we'll get into suspension trauma later more in detail, but just understand that it exists for now. So, right now, we've talked about the pieces of the harness, different parts. We've talked about how to inspect them, what to look for, and now we've put it on. So, again, the chest strap comes right across the nipples. The leg straps come from underneath. Buckle. You can do something with the straps. You can either tuck them in the back. You don't want to really push them back through here because they could come undone. And they do have some, but you don't want to tape them. Last thing you want to do is tape them. Then you would attach to your harness. Now you have your lanyard. I showed you the one lanyard. Here's another type of lanyard. This lanyard, if you're attached to a yo-yo allows you to work vertically. But you can't exceed 30 degrees in either direction. So what if I have to work laterally? Well, if I work laterally, double clasp safety latch. Sometimes they used to be made with a single push. And what would happen is if it engaged in the D-ring in the wrong direction, it could actually have what they call rollout, and disengage all by itself. Bad news. So double safety latch, double clasp safety latch here. So I hook this on. Again, the breakaway stitch is here next to my body, closest to my body. And this is what we call turbos. These two pelican hooks then, take one in each hand. While I'm climbing the wall, say I'm doing concrete forms, I can hook one, climb. Hook the other, unhook this first one, climb, hook the second one. So you're always, it's called 100% tie off. You have at least one of these tied off at all, I'm hooked on it at all times. That's what they want, they're kind of pushing for 100% tie off. And it allows me to work laterally instead of just vertically, because you don't want to exceed that 30 degree. God forbid you're up on a wall and you're exceeding 30 degrees and you fall. You're probably still getting hurt. You're going to hit all the ties and all the hardware on the way down. So you just want to be real careful. Again, this is fall protection. You've already fallen, which is different than fall prevention, which is engineered out. So, we're going to wrap this up. I'm going to hand out the physics of a fall worksheet so you understand how much force you're withstanding when you do fall from certain heights. You see, obviously, the higher you go, the longer it takes to fall, but the more pressure you're underneath when you finally do fall. I'm going to hand out this little sheet on suspension trauma. You can read it. We'll go over it next week when we talk about that. For this lesson now, we don't have any questions. We're going to go out to the shop. You're all going to get a harness. You're all going to identify the parts and pieces of the harness, all the hardware, all the straps. You're going to inspect all the parts. And then we're going to put them on. We're going to don the harnesses properly, and then you're going to adjust them to your own body style and body weight, body size. Now, about 20 of us here today. I'm going to tell you right now, there are 2 harnesses out there that have problems. It's either a cut, a tear, a burn, because you want to inspect that harness every time you put it on. If you go to break and you come back, you don't know what happened, and you want to hang it up. You don't want to leave it in the bottom of the gang box. Now this harness here is all dirty, just like carpeting that withstands, takes a lot of sand. That sand, those granules get in, cut the carpeting. Same thing can happen to your straps if it's laying in the bottom of the gang box, if you just throw it on the ground. That's, you know, even if the employer gives it to you, you want to treat it with respect. You want to treat it as it's your own. This one's a little dirty. You can wash them with soap and water, just hose them off. But you want to keep them neat and clean. And again, like this guy here, never use tape because the adhesive in the tape. So, we're going to go out and get our own harnesses. We're going to identify all the pieces. We're going to inspect them. We're going to put them on. And we're going to properly adjust them. Any questions? All right, let's go to the shop.